Who was Madame Fortune?
Who was Madame Fortune?
Who was Madame Fortune?
Fortune Taylor was brought to Florida in 1852 to Hernando County, the city of Brooksville. After the Civil War, she came to Tampa with her longtime love, Benjamin Taylor. He was a citrus farmer, and he knew and understood the economic potential of citrus culture.
They were only married for 3 years before Benjamin passed away. But by that time, they were landowners. They owned 33 acres of land with orchards and orange trees and guavas and
peach and plum trees. And he also built a house for his lady, Fortune Taylor, as she was referred to at the time. When the United States government made it legal for blacks to marry,
we know that as soon as slavery was ended, that she and her husband went to the courthouse to get married. In fact,
they were the second couple to do so in Hillsborough County.
That's amazing. You had white women in this period of time that weren't able to be legal property owners. So now you have a woman, a widow, and a black woman, widow at that, who is able to become the legal property owner.
I would say in the early 1890s, another man appeared at Fortune Taylor's door, and he wanted to build a bridge across the Hillsborough River and connect it to the east side at Fortune Taylor's property. His name was Hugh Campbell McFarland, and he is considered the father or one of the founders of West Tampa. Now, McFarland wanted to build the bridge. It was necessary so that cigar workers in Tampa, West Tampa, which was its own city at the time, and Ybor City could get safely to work. All three of those cities were experiencing an economic slump, and it was difficult for ordinary people, ordinary workers, to cross the river. So the bridge was an important part of Tampa's development. Not only was the bridge important to ordinary people getting to work, but it also has that figurative, that literal and a figurative meaning because it connected communities. It connected the whites with the Hispanics and the whites with the blacks. So it was a community builder. And when you visit the Fortune Taylor Bridge, you can still feel that energy today. Unfortunately, she passed away from pneumonia here in Tampa. And she is buried at historic Oak Lawn Cemetery, which is 2 blocks from my house.
She was able to find love. They were able to have a marriage. They were able to be landowners. They were able to be entrepreneurs. She was able to hold on to what she had even in the death of her husband. She was able to navigate the complicated landscape of being a black woman in a post-slavery era where, yes, it was possible, but also the kind of, seedlings of Jim Crow and the black codes were already starting to be planted and flower. But she was still able to hold on to her land and sell it off for a profit and for a benefit.
And that is the short version of the story of Madame Fortune Taylor.
Creating Madame Fortune's dessert and HiFi Parlour was truly an out-of-body experience. I felt guided. I felt guided by my ancestors. I felt guided by my mother. I felt guided by, Madame Fortune's spirit when I thought of this incredible, incredible space. My partner, Kalia McDuffie, she was excited when she first got the space, and she was like, listen, I really, really, really want you to do something special with this place. So I sat there for a moment and I started to dig and dig and dig. And one day I was going through these articles and I saw this story about Madame Fortune Taylor. And, you know, I kept digging more because it was just a small article. It wasn't very much information. And I started to figure out, you know, well, who wrote books about this woman? Who researched about this woman? Who's a true historian? And I tripped literally upon Miss Gloria Jean Royster. I got a chance to sit down with Miss Gloria Jean inside Madame Fortune to do a little Q&A. We pulled up to the bar for a quick toast and some spicy chat. I am super excited about this moment. This is a little cocktail date with one of my favorite people in the entire world. She has been an integral part in how Madame Fortune was first created. She is a dynamic storyteller. She is an activist. She is one of my favorite historians and most knowledgeable historians that I know here in Tampa. And she is the main reason as to why we have Madame Fortune Dessert and HiFi Parlour today. Please give it up to my friend, Gloria Jean Royster.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
And to celebrate, we actually named a drink cocktail after you. It is a spicy margarita, kind of like you.
Ooh, yeah.
And it is called the Gloria Jean. And we are going to be drinking that today. Let's light that on fire to celebrate. There we go.
Oh my gosh.
There we go.
Spicy and hot.
Spicy and hot.
I love it.
Gotta have that flame. Let's take a toast. There we go.
To Madame Fortune.
To Madame Fortune. Man, that's good.
Oh my goodness.
I had to blow that fire out.
Mm-hmm.
Got a little kick to it, huh?
That's what I like about it.
Yeah. So why do you feel that her story is so important to tell?
Because it's Tampa.
Yeah.
And because Tampa exists because of her.
That's right.
You and I, that day we met,
Yeah.
we talked and you said, no, it was when I came here to see Madame Fortune before the employees.
Right.
You invited me and you said it's really her name.
Yeah.
And that is what I have believed all along.
Yeah.
That it's really her name.
Yeah.
And that her name is synonymous with progress in Tampa.
Yeah. Yeah. So my next question to you would be, in our world now where a lot of things are at risk, right? When it comes to DEI, when it comes to, you know, critical race theory, certain stories that we're telling to our children, why do you feel that, you know, Black history right now is important out of any era right now?
Because when I spent, in 2023, I spent 2.5 months in Macon. I went there on a genealogy history project for a Tampa family and who had roots in Macon.
Okay.
And one day I took a Black history tour on a van, and we began the tour at their train station, like our Union Station.
Yeah.
And the van was sitting outside the building underneath the area where at the top it said colored waiting room. And the host of the tour, who happened to be Black, he said that he explained to us before we pulled off that when there was discussion about whether or not to remove colored waiting room, at first he was for it. And then he said, he thought about it and he decided, no, leave it there. Because he said that school-age children did not believe that it happens.
Wow. Wow.
And so that is why Madame Fortune's name being on the street and the bridge is so important.
Yeah.
For the young people.
Yeah. So that they can have something to honestly look up to.
Yes.
And recognize and say, yes, Tampa does have great Cuban history, great Italian history, but we are a melting pot. We have wonderful Afro-Cuban history.
Exactly.
We have great Black history here in the city. And as you know, from the different neighborhoods and things that we used to be called the Harlem of the South.
Exactly.
You know, but Madam Fortune Taylor in particular was a trailblazer, an unsung hero.
Oh my gosh.
And I lived in Tampa almost, 36 years and had no idea who this woman was. Never talked about her in school, never talked about her in different field trips to different places about Tampa, never, no walks, no anything about her, no statues, and learning her story from someone who is knowledgeable, you taught me, you taught me something.
Well, speaking of I inspired you,
Yeah.
there were people that I learned
Yeah.
from. And of course, Fred Hearns was one. And Doris Weatherford, she came to brunch. And she is an American women's historian who lives in Tampa Bay.
Oh, wow.
So she's written multiple books
Okay.
about women's history, and she has a seminal book about real women of Tampa and Hillsborough.
Mm.
So Fortune Taylor was in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were people who inspired and encouraged me,
Mm-hmm.
and people that I looked up to. All I did was research a little further.
Of course.
That's what I did because I wanted to find her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And find meaning a photo, which
Yes.
we still don't have yet.
Yeah.
Or find meaning coming across the document where she is chattel slavery property
Right.
in the patriarch, the enslaver's will in South Carolina.
Yeah.
So finding her,
Yeah. Yeah.
finding the story, the background.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if people had not written about her, the few people in Tampa
Yeah.
that had written about her,
We wouldn't have known.
we wouldn't be sitting here.
Absolutely.
And something I wanted to add is that the way the United States was set up,
Mm-hmm.
some of their legalities,
Yeah.
unfortunately, if her husband had lived, we may not be sitting here
Wow.
because she became the owner of the land after he died.
Yeah.
The county claimed, then she became the legal owner in the United States. She actually finally purchased the land
Yeah.
in the United States of America.
Mm.
Signed by President Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah.
But if he had not lived the way the legal system was set up, he would have owned everything.
Sure.
He would have.
Yeah.
And it would have been in his name.
Yeah.
And maybe there wouldn't have been a Fortune Street.
Mm.
So, I like to look at what I call the line of destiny.
Of course.
And everything lines up
Right.
for a reason.
There you go. Last question. What is something that you want people to know when they come into Madam Fortune and they don't know the story?
Her name is synonymous with the progress of Tampa.
That's right.
When they built the bridge, Ybor was in the economic slump.
Yeah.
Ybor,
Yeah.
downtown Tampa, the businesses were struggling.
Yeah.
The city of West Tampa
Yeah.
at the time, their cigar factories were closing
Mm.
because people couldn't get across the water to go to work. So when they put the bridge in, they put her name, the economic fortunes changed.
Yeah.
When they put her name on the bridge in 2017, Jeff Houck said, and we're researching the details about what he meant at the time, he said, fortunes are returning to Tampa
That's right.
at that time.
Yeah.
So and then there are other instances in the story, in the research,
Sure.
which we hope to share later,
Of course.
where she's synonymous with progress,
Yes.
her name.
Yes.
And her name is always in the mix.
Absolutely.
So this is a reflection of her as a person, her legacy, her essence, and what she did from Tampa. And it's why is this place, this sacred place in Ybor City?
Yeah.
Because she helped it grow.
She did. Yes, she did.
indirectly, she
Yes, she did.
helped it grow.
Yes, she did.
And people need, when you come in, you need to know that.
That's right.
That spot, one of the reasons it's in Ybor City.
That's right. And, you know, one thing that I definitely wanted to do was not erase her name.
Exactly.
When you speak about this place, when you talk about this place, you have to say Madam Fortune Taylor. And speaking her name allows her legacy to live on, allows people to be more inquisitive about her stories.
Exactly.
And to figure out more about her, how she paved the way for a lot of us. I am so grateful for this chat. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
for
taking the
having
time. Absolutely. And I absolutely love you.
I'm honored. I love you and Kalila too.
Oh,
I'm
wonderful.
honored.
When creating Madam Fortune, I really wanted to keep the significance of storytelling. It was imperative that I included my own little love letter to tell people exactly where I came from. I am Black and Guyanese, and that influence has always been in the food that I've experienced growing up. I remember vividly how some Sundays we would have meatloaf or spaghetti, others we would have fried chicken and collards, but what stuck out the most was the West Indian influence. Walking home from school, I could literally smell the curries wafting from the window. From the goat to the saltfish to the spices and the Scotch bonnet, they were regulars. And listen, this little husky boy was here for it. But nothing stood out more than pepper pot. Known as the national dish of Guyana, pepper pot is this slow-cooked stew of many meats. It's sweet, it's spicy, it has such a robust flavor, and it's something I literally dream about. It is the definition of comfort for me. Along with Madam Fortune, many Black women have inspired me along the way, but my biggest inspiration is my mother. So I would be remiss if our special guest was not present to give you a first-hand demo on how to make Guyanese pepper pot. So please welcome my very, very special guest, my mother. Hi, Mommy. So Mom, pepper pot, that is one of my favorite dishes. You would always make it for me as a kid, and I absolutely grew up to love it and adore it. Tell us a little bit about how it was when you first got introduced to pepper pot and as a little girl.
Well, as a little girl, my grandmother would make pepper pot on Christmas
Oh,
Day.
wow.
And you would go to sleep and wake up on Christmas, and the whole house will be full of this aroma of pepper pot, and you can't wait to dig into it. My grandmother, she was an excellent cook. And so pepper pot was our dish that we eat first thing on Christmas Day.
And I remember, so pepper pot can be many things, right? You can do different meats.
Yes.
Here at Madam Fortune, we do oxtails, but can you tell us what other meats you can use with pepper pot?
Because it's a rich stew.
Okay.
It's a meat stew. You can put cow foot in it.
Oh, wow.
You can use lamb. You can use mutton.
Okay.
Stew beef. Oxtails. All of that can go into that one big pot of pepper pot, and it is delicious.
Okay. And if you were to say, what is one thing that you have to have in this dish, right? What is the one essential ingredient for pepper pot that people should know? It's not pepper pot unless this ingredient is in it.
The calf's rib.
Calf's rib?
Yes.
So,
the calf's rib is what makes the pepper pot so, it's full of aroma. And then you have the peppers, because it's called pepper pot.
Of course.
So we have this pepper called Mawariri pepper that my grandmother would put in there.
Okay.
But you can use Scotch bonnet pepper.
Okay.
You can use any other different kind of pepper, but the calf's rib is what makes the pepper pot.
Yes, and calf's rib is made from a cassava root.
Yep.
That's correct. And it kind of has like this molasses consistency, color type thing, similar to like molasses. I would say like maybe barbecue sauce because of the tanginess and the sweetness. And I absolutely love that. I'm so excited to have you on my documentary today. And we're going to make some really good pepper pot today, right? My mom worked her magic as always in the kitchen. She paired the pepper pot with rice and peas and some bus-up shot roti, which is like a flaky bread similar to naan. And at first bite, it was absolutely divine. This was nostalgia on a plate. And if you ever get to try it at Madam Fortune, just know it's mama approved. I had always been in love with speakeasies. I thought they were so cool and so awesome. But it also tells you a little bit about the history, like during the Prohibition times, you know, people would hide. And it also is a play on how Madame Fortune's legacy is still hidden in Tampa. And that's what I wanted to create when I thought of this space. I think creating Madame Fortune was my attempt to keep her name alive. I believe in the power of words. I believe in the power of names. I believe in, you know, the power of the tongue. And this is my love story. This is my gift. This is something that I am incredibly proud of. And I hope you are too.